Alright, I'm making this video because I'm going to try to bring awareness to this. It seems like all of these distractions are for a reason to fatigue everyone. Everyone. And what type of thing, plan, or agenda could be so big to the point that all of these distractions that we are experiencing is worth? As you see in the title, Planet People versus Planet Inhabitants. I'll try to explain. What we are seeing in this world is a lot of distractions. When these distractions ramp up, somewhere along the lines, it causes financial loss, backlash, trouble, destruction, more distractions. What could possibly be the point? What could possibly be so important to cause such huge distractions? It's like, there's got to be something, right? Of course there is. And I think I know what it is. Because I've been paying close attention to something that I caught wind of a few months ago. And I think that everyone should pay a little more attention to it, because not just a little more, it's a lot more, because the effects are long lasting if this is implemented. The effects are long lasting. I'm talking about the environment. And if you think that what I'm about to say won't interest you, or because it doesn't immediately have anything to do with you getting your next dollar, well, how about the dollar in the future? Or things worsening? Or things just being worse than you can imagine it being right now? I think maybe you should listen just a little bit. So, this is the environmental thing, and there are people listening, and it's made it to the forefront that, hey, the weather's being manipulated. Well, let's say it gets worse than that. And we've already seen the horror stories about, fake meat or human meat being on the damn truck and it's spilling out onto the highway and stuff like that. And most of us question and have proof of the fruit being fake, the seedless stuff, the watermelons they're spraying out and stuff, and strawberries don't look like strawberries, and bananas don't look like bananas, and everything is fake. Okay, well, let's say it gets even worse than that. How could you imagine it getting any worse than that? How about the very air you breathe? Okay, how about and I'm not talking about pollution, I'm talking about the level of oxygen in the air. Plants only make but so much oxygen. The oceans can absorb only but so much carbon dioxide. Yeah, you've heard that before about the oceans can, absorbing the carbon. Okay, forget that. Plants themselves only make so much oxygen. Do you know where? Do you have any idea where most of the other oxygen is produced and where it comes from? The oceans. You know how? This little tiny little thing called a nodule, about this big, it forms itself over a long period of time when different type of metals come together in the ocean, and it just, accumulates. It accumulates in the ocean, on the ocean floor, and these little things called nodules are produced. What do? They actually create the electrolysis process. And if you know anything about the electrolysis process, when you take water and an element, normally we know of electrolysis process is when you use electricity in the water with two different elements. that you produce hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, well, this is these little things that have grown because of elements in the ocean, metals that have accumulated in one little spot and makes this little tiny little ball. It creates an electrolysis process on its own without electricity because it is like a little tiny little battery. What they want to do is mine the oceans for this. Now, the problem with that is where these things are on the ocean floor is so far down that the only way that any type of ocean life that exists that far down can survive is because of these little tiny little nodules. Think about that for a second. If they start mining the oceans for these nodules, these oxygen producing nodules, it will have a catastrophic, instant, worldwide effect. That's why some of these sharks have been beaching themselves over the years, because they have been mining these things for years now. They just didn't know what exactly of an effect it would have globally. They didn't know until someone did some research and found out that these things actually are responsible for the oxygen levels in the ocean. Okay, so if it's immediately affecting ocean life like that, over time, if companies out there figure we can just go this and make a quick dollar, like a dollar is something that's going to give you something to eat. You can eat a dollar, right? No, you can't eat a dollar. You can't drive a dollar. You can't live under a dollar. It's a trading tool. That's all it is. So here comes the destructive idea. We can make lots of money, lots of money. Greed, greed, greed. Let's go to God's given ocean and let's go mine these. This is what they're going. This is what they've been doing. This is what they've been doing. Mine the oceans for these nodules that produce oxygen in the ocean. Over time, what's going to happen is, listen to me, the oxygen that we breathe in our atmosphere is going to decrease. We have so many vehicles, so many cars, so many planes, everything that uses oxygen other than a human, and people also. And plus these wildfires that keep happening everywhere that's consuming oxygen. These rockets that are being sent up to space all the time that's consuming oxygen. The manipulation of the weather that's altering the air. I'm sure there's a chemical process there when that stuff messes with the oxygen. Not to mention the satellites that are coming down from space every so often. It's messing with the oxygen. I remember when I was in middle school, some years ago, we were told that the level of oxygen that there was in the air was around 25%. I hear now that it's 23%. 23%. So within my lifetime, it dropped a few points. Huh? 3% it dropped. 23, 2 to 3, 3.5, 2, it dropped. That's what they're saying. So we're running around here breathing 23% oxygen. 23%. Okay. No wonder people aren't as quick and fast as they used to be. No wonder the newer generation doesn't have the quickness that I remember my generation had. Physical quickness, just very fast responses and everything else. I know there's lots of contaminants and everything like that, but I'm just saying this adds to it. And if you want to do a little research on what I'm talking about, I don't have to validate it. You can search it for yourself. Watch some of these old videos where a lot of us were dancing back in the day and how quick and precise and how fast we moved back then. I'm talking about the time before I was born, when it was still black and white videos. Look how damn fast they were moving, how much energy they had, okay? And I'm sure they didn't have Well, you can't consider what we have better now as far as nutrition, other than, yeah, of course, the nutrition is not the same. That's besides the point. The oxygen level was higher. The oxygen level was higher back then. And before back then, it was even higher than that. Do your research. There was a time when the oxygen levels were really high and all the insects and plants and everything were bigger. Which makes me wonder, we're dealing with a planetary, what did I say in the title? Planetary people versus planetary inhabitants. So the planetary inhabitants, you know, everything is natural and everything it's always been. You see the pattern, always been going against nature, going against nature. For they do not know who they really are. Always, always. I'll tell you this. I'm sitting right now. Not one mosquito has bit me. I guess you're wondering, like, why is he complaining? Okay, 3 years ago, that was unheard of. Unheard of. Where's it going? When's the last time you've been outside at night to look at the street lights? Do you see a lot of bugs flying around street lights? I don't know what state you're in, but in this state, I barely see none. Barely. The bee population dropped. Just reminded myself of something. They said something about a bee incident that happened where bees were released. Was it Seattle, Washington, or someplace? Whatever. Just recently happened this month. This is June. Bees were released. Yeah, that's an excuse to go out and fucking spray more. Do you see what's going on? Environmental disasters are taking place. And the biggest one that's about to come up is that they want to mine the oceans. They want to mine the oceans. That's why this whole thing about getting rid of gasoline-powered cars came up in the picture. They want to make it so that there is a demand for an excuse to go and do something like mine the oceans. Because in their brain, they say, they realize and they look at the picture, they know the science. They've stated the science that if we go and do this, the effect is going to be this. But then at the same time, they have a conflict because they're not here to save the earth. They're here to destroy it. That's what they're fucking here for. So this conflict of humanity and what they're programmed to do starts clashing. That's what happens. It starts clashing, and they go and justify going ahead, moving ahead, and doing something destructive because that's their programming. So I'm trying to bring awareness to this. Here it is, the middle of June. I've heard that by the end of June, that's when they're planning on going down there with these huge machines that's going to roll across the ocean floor and scoop up these nodules, all for the purpose of making a battery so we can have electric cars. Okay. That's why all this craziness is happening. That's why all this freaking craziness, all this huge distractions that we keep going back and forth with each other about, we've gotten to the point where we figured out that it's not exactly about race, it's about control. Race is an under factor used to divide and manipulate and control, but the whole goddamn thing is about control. And right now they've got most people's attention controlled to the media, what's going on. But we must break from that. Quiet quit on that bullshit now. Quiet quit on it. It's the environment that's going to suffer because there are some people that they're basing their decisions on this mental conflict between their humanity and what they've been programmed to do, and they're about to justify what they're about to do. Mind the oceans is what they're about to do because they feel like it's going to be a greater good, and it never is. If they scoop up those nodules, the oxygen levels worldwide will be affected. It will be affected. Make some noise about this. It's not too often you see somebody that looks like me It says something about the environment. But since you are right now, you better pay attention. Everyone better pay attention. Because it's irreversible. It's irreversible. The only way I can imagine it could reverse would be to put the damn things back in the ocean. I haven't seen any kind of restoration of environmental damage to such a magnitude ever been accomplished. They don't even know what to do with nuclear fuel. That's sitting underground for thousands of years. Thousands of years. So, make some noise about this. Bring awareness to it. Do a little research on it. Make a playlist about it. Talk about it. Make a video about it. Make a freaking video about it. Quickly. You hear that motorcycle in the background? Got no time to waste. We must rush to thinking about this now. There's no time to waste. If they start doing this on mass scale, we got a problem, world. We got a problem. Wake up now. Being woke is not bad, it's good. It's bad for greedy people. Hear the motorcycle? Confirmation. Do it now. Let's save our planet.